Hello, everybody. God bless each and every one of you. It's Saturday morning here. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful day. Wish the temperature was out of the 30s, but it's not. But it's an absolutely beautiful day, and I cannot wait for springtime to get here and start seeing the leaves start coming back on the trees. You see, that's a wonderful thing that God gives us each year, and that's renewal. We every year we get renewal. Coming out of all the deadness that is winter. The trees are all dead, the leaves are dead, there's no flowers, the grass is all brown. It's just not colorful. It's just gray and just doesn't look good. But then we get that spring. You get that first semi-warm day, and you start seeing the leaves start protruding out onto the trees, and the grass starts turning green again, and you just get that wonderful feeling that you through the winter, you made it through. And God gives each and every one of us that. When we go to church, when I go to church, I get that renewal. I battled all week long via aggravation, stress, pain, things that every single one of us go through. I'm not anybody special, but when I go to church on Sunday morning, I get that renewal. I get refreshed. I call it getting my batteries recharged for the week ahead. I've always liked that. I like using that analogy, getting my batteries recharged. But that's what God does for each and every one of us. And that is why it is so important that we go to church, that we show God reverence, that we show appreciation for everything that He's done. And that just isn't really done today anymore. People just don't appreciate what God gives. It seems like a lot of people only turn to God in times of trouble. When bad things befall them or their family, it really seems like that's the only time they turn to God, that they, really seek God, that they, pray, and they need that comfort that God can give them. And He most definitely will and does. But the thing is, when you start recovering from that tragedy that's happened in either with yourself or your family, when you start recovering from that, and we do know time heals all wounds, that saying is very true, we tend to forget God. We tend to push God back into the background until the next tragedy comes along, until the next serious problem comes along. And then we pull God back out of the closet and we seek Him, we pray to Him. We might even go to church during that period of time. There is a lot of people in this country that do that. And folks, I can just say that, staying with God consistently through good and bad is what a Christian does. Not only do you turn to God in time of need, but you also turn to Him when things are plentiful, when things are going good, when you're happy and maybe you got a raise at work, or you got a new promotion, or you just had a new baby, or just something joyous happened in your life. God's there for the good and the bad. Unfortunately, as I just said, many, 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 many people only turn to God during the bad. And I can only imagine, Christ being saddened by that. I mean, I can only imagine that. I know the love that He has for each and every one of us. I mean, he went to that cross for every single person. He died such a horrific death. And it wasn't just for you to, need Him and just whenever you needed Him. It was for all time. It was for every day. And I know it has to sadden God when, things are going well in our lives and we don't mention God. We don't give God any reverence. We don't pick up the Bible. We don't even consider going to church. You ever notice on Christmas time and Easter time, the churches are packed? Those 2 times a year, the churches are packed. Everybody goes to church on Easter and the Christmas service. It seems like that. But then the other 50 weeks of the year, that church is devoid of those people. And I know that has to sadden the Lord. I mean, it just has to, because the love he has for each and every one of us is so immense and so great that it just has to sadden him that we, turn away from him, or we only use him when we want to. Reminds me of a very old saying, there's no atheists in foxholes. And it reminds me of that, it's very true. When your life's in danger, you turn to God. You promise God all sorts of things, get me out of this and I'll do this, let me make it back to whatever, let me make it back home, or let me get back to, if you're in battle, let me get back to my lines or to my unit, and I'll never, do this again, or I'll go to church every day, every Sunday, or I'll read my Bible every day. And a lot of people do that, and they start out with good intentions, but then they wean off when that terror that was in their life that they turned to God for subsides. And again, time does that. Then they tend to forget the promises that they made God. First off, you're not supposed to promise God. You're just, unless you're absolutely without a doubt going to fulfill that, you just don't promise God you're going to do this or do that. If you know in 3 months' time, you're not going to be doing that again, you're going to fall by the wayside. Just don't promise him things. I've seen too many people do that. Lord, get me out of this situation, and I'll never miss church again, or I'll read the Bible every morning. And at first they do. But again, as they get further and further away from whatever the problem is, or whatever scared them, or whatever terror they faced, once they get far enough away from that, they tend to just forget the promises that they made. And I believe that has a lot to do with the way we're seeing America today. Every video I make, pretty well much, I bring up this country, and I bring up the way that it's turned its back on God. Just about every video, if not every video, at some point, I make that statement. And this has a lot to do with it, because a lot of people just have a tendency to use God in a time of need and then throw him away when they don't need him. And with everything that's going on today, with all of the problems in the world, with the wars and the famine that we see, and the disease that we're fighting all through this world, and the viciousness, the crime, the violence, the drugs, the women and children being kidnapped for to be put into sexual service, these wicked things we're seeing, God is absolutely not happy. There's no way he can be happy with the way things are going. And I'm just going to stick here with America, because that's what I know best, because that's where I live. Just as if you live in another country, you know best because that's where you live. But inevitably, if you look back through history, you can see this time and time and time again. When a nation turns its back on God, when people do not follow through, when people forget God, you will see inevitably, without a doubt, that nation will come to some collapse of some sort, albeit an economic collapse, albeit a social collapse, meaning their morals that they live by, their laws they live by is just tossed aside. They no longer follow what would be considered normal and common sense, because they've lost their way. They've lost their way, and we see that so much. And by people, using God the way they do, it doesn't help the situation. It does not help the situation at all. I know when I was in the hospital in intensive care, and I really thought I was going to die, to be honest with you folks. That was the one time in my life that I thought this is it, because a lot of people die from COVID, and I had COVID pneumonia in both lungs which is what they call double pneumonia. And my pulse ox was down in the low 80s. I couldn't breathe. And, I told God, look, I prayed and I said, Lord, I want to get back and see my family. I will, I want to get back. I want to do more for you. I want to, do more in my videos. I want to do more music for you and things along those lines. And, the Lord brought me out of that hospital. Yes, the doctors and nurses did a fantastic job. I take nothing away from them. Believe me, I take nothing away from them. They did a wonderful job on me, but ultimately it was God that got me out of that hospital. And when I came out of that hospital, I remembered what I had told God that, I wanted to do. But I wanted to see my family again, and I've stuck by that. I've continued making videos. My music has progressed. I'm writing more songs now than I ever have done. I'm playing more music in church. I'm enjoying myself. I'm trying to give back to God all that He's done for me. Trying to give Him more reverence. Read my Bible more, pray more. Obviously, attend church. I do everything I can to not miss church. That's one thing I try my very best not to do, and I'm pretty good at not missing church. I love going to church. I love playing the music for God, and so that gives me an extra incentive to go, for the praise and worship. But anyways, I'm going to close. My point being in this video is don't turn your back on God when things are going good, and don't just turn to God when things are going bad. God is there for us 24 hours a day. Some people may not understand why things happen, why it seems bad things happen to good people, but that is just the sign and times we live in. There is a book out there called When Bad Things Happen to Good People, and for the life of me, I cannot remember the author. It's a Christian author, and it's a very good book if you ever want to get a chance to take a read. It does a lot of explaining of that exact reason. Why do bad things seem to happen to good people? And it does seem like some wicked people seem to prosper. We're seeing that today in our nation's capital. There's so many that's in our nation's capital that are so corrupt that it's not even funny, but yet they continue to become more wealthier and more, with more prestige and more power, and they accomplish more in life. But yet they're very wicked in the ways that they do things. They're corrupt. They're easily bought by others. They do backroom deals. They take kickbacks, bribes. And they seem to prosper. But folks, they really aren't prospering. Looking at the outside in at their lives, it may look like they're, have the life of Riley, limousines and mansions and this and all. A lot of those politicians in DC are so filthy rich that it's unbelievable. They go there making very minimal amount of money like we would, and then within a few years they're millionaires. And you have to wonder, when they make $100,000 a year as a new congressman or congresswoman, and within a few years they're multi millionaires. You have to wonder how that happens. It happens through being corrupt, and we have too much of that. And so it looks like they're prospering, but I promise you they're not. Their reward is here. As the Bible says, their reward is here on earth. Our reward comes in heaven. And let me tell you something, folks. There is nothing this earth can offer me that I would trade for my rewards in heaven. There's nothing. There's no amount of money. There's nothing. It reminds me of when the devil took Jesus atop the mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and told him, I'll give you all of this. I'll give you all of it if you just bow down and worship me. And Christ told him, you can't give me what isn't yours to give. And he was right. So our rewards come in heaven. Never forget that. Never forget that. And never forget to pray for those that are corrupt and wicked in our nation's capital, because ultimately they do lead this nation, and right now they're not doing a good job. That's all I have. Take care. I went way too far than I usually do. God bless each and every one of you. Have a good Saturday, and tomorrow's Sunday. If you can get to church, do your best to get to church. I'll talk to you later. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button. It helps. Take care. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.